Welcome to the Music Reel. I'm your host, Nicola Burton. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with internationally acclaimed Australian music artist and television presenter, Phil Walleystack. Phil, it is so lovely to meet you.
Yeah, same, Nicola. Nicola?
Nikki, you can call me Nikki.
Nikki.
Okay, how's that?
That's better, Nikki. No, great to be here, Nikki. Thank you.
Oh, look, I'm so keen to talk to you. Now, where are you based right now?
At my house.
In Perth?
in Perth, yeah.
I love it. You're cheeky. I love it. All right. So while everybody else, as you know, I've been talking to people all over the world about lockdown. Here you are about to do the most incredibly cool thing. You're about to go on a regional tour of Western Australia with the Perth Symphony Orchestra. Oh my God, I love that. So can you tell us a little bit about why the orchestra? Because logistics will be very interesting. And I guess tell me about the tour, how it came about, where you're going, and I guess what audiences can expect from this really cool thing that you're doing.
Yeah, well, we're actually halfway through it. So we've already started touring. It's all the shows have basically been sold out lately, which is amazing. But part of that, and the reason why it's been sold out is because you know, I wanted to make it as free as possible for people to come out, and you know, our job as artists, I believe, is to take people away from any troubles, any worries, and any stress that they might be having in their life. So I thought, you know, we're in a position as an artist now is to be able to take a show out and invite people to come along, because I know, you know, not just in the arts industry ourselves, but a lot of people lost their jobs, lost a lot of money. So I'm a big supporter of supporting people with mental health. So I know that I've got a tool through music and performances and concerts that we can make a lot of people feel better. You know, like I said, we're just halfway through the tour now, and the messages I've been receiving from people who are dealing with anxiety and depression, it brings tears to my eyes, but tears of joy, because they send me messages and they say, you know, the last one that I got last night was from a young fella up in the Wheatbelt area whose father's been diagnosed with cancer, and he hasn't got long to live. And he said, you know, thank you, Phil, and thank you to the Perth Symphony Orchestra, because for 3 to 4 hours he was able to just switch off and just enjoy life, you know, just for that short time. So it's things like that make it worthwhile. You know, the whole tour came about, well, I was meant to be finishing a full West Australian tour right now, but
well, you had to cancel everything because when the lockdowns hit. Yeah. Oh my goodness, the logistics.
Yeah, well, something that I do is I pre-sell the shows to a lot of places, and so it was going to be my biggest year. You know, after suffering after suffering from a few mental breakdowns and mental illnesses myself over the last couple of years, which has been very, very hard, especially with anxiety. Yeah. And, you know, we go back to New Year's Eve, and my wife and I just counted down on the banks of the Swan River over here, and it was just the two of us, and we stood there and we counted down, and as soon as we said Happy New Year, I just felt this big relief. Like this year was going to be big. It was going to be huge. It was going to be a new start in my career, and everything was set up, ready to go. And just as it was just about to start the tour, obviously COVID hit, and you know, I lost it all. It was going to be my biggest year, and you know, I broke down for about 2 weeks, and then you know, luckily I have the support of my wife, who's a very strong person. And, you know, I thought, well, what do I need to do? So I started grabbing my phone and singing live on social media, and people started tuning in and giving requests. So a lot of times I don't do a lot of cover songs, but I did a hell of a lot of cover songs on social media. Yeah. But from that, you know, I ended up borrowing a couple of cameras, and I learnt how to video how to frame, how to color grade. And I set up this mini sort of TV studio in my lounge room with a few pull-up banners and a few lighting techniques and stuff like this. And I started just recording my meanings behind songs while we was in lockdown over here in Perth.
Yeah.
And I started putting them out on YouTube and social media and things. And after that, you know, a few friends of mine in the music industry started singing live as well on social media and was going back and forth. So then a good friend of mine who's a musician from up in the Pilbara, Mr. Bradley Hall, he said, look, let's start a Facebook page. So we started a page called The Isolation Tour. And we had, you know, we had hundreds of performers performing every night. One after another would log them into our page and they'd go live. But we had over 100 performers, but we had thousands of people tuning in live every night, just about every night, and especially weekends when, you know, people was having their own sort of parties and barbecues in their yard, and they'd hook their laptop up to the TV and they'd wheel the TV out in the back and they were sending us photos. So we was still able to entertain people, and that's the blessing on. As an entertainer, as an artist side of things, is that as long as you're making people happy, you know, you're doing your job. And I know the money was tough. The money was tough right across the board for everybody, you know.
Yeah,
so
and look at the difference you made into so many people's lives, that you were able to still bring your music to them. And think about it, if we didn't have lockdowns, you probably would not have learnt to set the whole studio up in your lounge room as quickly as you did. You know, you've adapted in order to survive. I mean, a man that can do a tour of Western Australia with the orchestra is a man that can do anything. So how on earth did you guys come together?
Except dishes. You know, my wife always gives me crap because, you know, I'll clean up everywhere, and because I've been home for the last couple of days and just resting, you know, I went right through and I cleaned the whole house yesterday, and the wife comes over, she goes, but you didn't do the dishes. I said, oh.
Bill, that's our job. We're there to, you know, as wives, we're there to sort of go, come on, dude, come on, let's do this. Well done.
Yeah, I've got the scars to prove it.
So I'm curious, how on earth did you make this happen with the Perth Symphony Orchestra? That's amazing. What happened? So
I've always been slightly involved with the CEO of Perth Symphony Orchestra, Bobby Webster. Great person, great human being with a big soul, big heart. And over years, you know, we've always talked about trying to do things together and what we can do. And Bobby wanted to do a reconciliation action plan for the Perth Symphony Orchestra, and so she asked if I'll get on board and help guide them through that sort of stuff, and so I agreed, and we started working on it. And as we started working on that, and we started doing obviously the Zoom calls and whatnot, and doing things, and then when our what do you call it, rules or our lockdown sort of eased up over here, you know, I invited her over to do or just to come over to have a chat a bit more about it also. Her and her partner come over for a barbecue and was having a chat, and at that time I was redoing my tour, but on a smaller scale, and it was just the southwest of WA here, which is bloody big anyway. But I started pulling that together, and she mentioned that, you know, they had a tour also that fell through, and, you know, they had some funding and sponsors on board to do the tour. And she, just out of the blue, she said, what if we was to come on tour with you and learn your music? I said, no way. You know?
Love it.
And straight away I started getting a little bit of anxiety, because I thought, I have to play my songs perfect. But, you know, that's how it come about. And, you know, we're halfway through the tour now, and it's been sold out shows in Bunbury, Mora, and Northam. We've got Kalamunda this Saturday night, and I just checked the website. There's like 2 tickets left for that as well. And then we've got Geraldton next weekend, which is sold out also. And then the Albany Entertainment Centre on the 25th, where we finish up. So,
congratulations. I mean, for audiences at this year has just been so challenging. To see this show, it must make such a difference to them. I just wish we had something like that over here. I think it's a brilliant concept. So well done.
No, thank you. It's that mix, you know. I'd be honest and open to my audience, and I tell them all the things that I went through with anxiety and depression, because for over 10 years, you know, I traveled the world on a monthly basis, going around performing, and then one day, you know, I was putting together the West Australian content for the Commonwealth Games opening ceremony, and we did all the rehearsals, and I got all the boys together over here with the full didgeridoo orchestra that they did at the opening ceremony. And when we went to the airport over here in Perth to fly out, I couldn't step on the plane. And I tried and I couldn't do it. And so I rebooked my ticket for the next night, and it happened 3 nights in a row where I just couldn't get on the plane. And my anxiety, which I've never had, it just come over me, like I don't know why. And later on I worked out why it happened. There was a lot of things that I took on. You know, I was chairperson of the radio station over here, and I was sitting on a lot of the board of directors for a few of the theatre companies, and hosting a radio show myself and trying to do my own work, and I was renovating at the same time. and I knew that I took on too much. So Yeah. And so it's taken me, you know, 1.5 years, almost 2 years to sort of get my straps back together and just even have the courage to walk into a shopping centre, you know, and I tell this on stage, and I say to a lot of people during this concert and this tour that we're doing now, you know, I didn't realise how many people actually have anxiety and depression. And I thought, you know, when I started slipping into it, that I was the only one. And I know that a lot of people feel like that too. So this is with this tour now, it's given me the opportunity to be able to say to audiences and to, even if it's just one person out of 300 people sitting in the crowd, as saying you're not alone. You know, here I am on stage smiling and singing and dancing and making you feel good, but deep down inside I'm the same as you, you know, and I'm going through the same stuff. And you build that connection with the audience, and especially at times like this now, when people need to hear that. You know, I needed to hear that when I was going through a lot of stuff. And so we're putting that message across, but we're also showing that, you know, you've got the oldest living culture in the world, where I'm singing in my native Noongar language and with the boomerangs and playing didgeridoo. And then I've got this orchestra behind me at the same time. And we're showing that two cultures can work together at the same time.
Beautiful.
And you know, the catchphrase for the whole COVID in Australia was, we're all in this together, but we're all in life together as well, you know. And we need to start working together for everything, you know.
Well, it seems to me that what you're doing is actually a blueprint for how we recover. It's how we come together, how we work together, how we collaborate and bring whatever different cultures we are, whatever different places, bring them together. So I guess I'm curious to hear from you. What's your vision for, I mean, knowing how hard it is in our industry, what's our vision moving forward? How do we, I guess, use this as an opportunity to do better?
I think you just got to take a step back. You know, something that I was on my way to doing big things here in WA and Australia, but I just had to take a step back, and I think everyone just needs to take a step back, just regather yourself and your thoughts first as artists, because we're so creative that we end up creating prisons in our mind, you know, and that's the hardest prison to escape in the world, is the one that you create in your mind. And as artists, we've just got to go back and be humble and simple, and just do it as simple as you can, you know, keep it simple, your show and your performances. And it's amazing that when you do that and you sort of go back to your early days when before it was show business, when it was just show time all the time, and when it gets into the show business side of things, that's when you're on your way. But there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes in this industry that a lot of people who are touring and performing all the time would know exactly what I'm talking about. But to get back to that enjoyment of performing and singing and creating, it's where you block out everything else, but you also grab from everything else, and you harness that energy, that sorrow, that hurt, that happiness, that joy, and then put it back into your performance and your show that you're doing. And then once you do that, and any creative would know that you get back into that energy that's revolving around the world. And it's that streamline that as artists, when you get into it and you feel that energy, and nothing can go wrong. And I think that's what we need to do, is just take a step back, work out who we are again, and what's another way to do it in a simple way, and just get back into that stream of that good energy around the world.
You've just articulated it so beautifully, because music is a frequency, and what you're talking about is to find that frequency that we can all connect to. And that's really, instead of it's not here, it's here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's what a wonderful way of looking at it, because it takes the stress out of it. So we don't have to be anxious. Just got to ride the wave together.
Ride the wave. That's it.
Beautiful way to say it. Phil, I have loved talking to you today. I'm so excited to know more about what you're doing in the future. It's such a breath of fresh air meeting you and hearing your philosophy about telling your story, and I guess about, collaborating and co-creating and riding that wave. So from me to you, well done, and good luck for the rest of your tour. And I can't wait to talk to you again at some time in the future. Thank you for talking to me today.
No worries. Thank you, Nikki.